So one thing I notice in coaching people is that folks that have a belief or an example of how little things can add up tend to do really well and tend to make a lot of progress. And people who don't have that tend to get caught in a loop. And I'll talk about what type of loop they get caught in. So the people who have the reference experience or the belief that little things add up, if there's something that they want to get better at or a challenge, they immediately go to work and they know that just doing a little bit each day will add up. The folks that don't have this belief tend to have some alternate beliefs, like this is too little, this will never add up to something big, or I shouldn't just do a little, I should do a ton. And the problem with that, which I've mentioned before, is that they'll tend to do a lot. Like they might do a ton of exercise one day, but the next day they won't feel like doing that big amount again. And so they stop very easily. So this is something that puzzled me because I sort of picked this up over the years. I picked up many examples in my life where just a little bit added up to a lot, especially playing guitar. I was never somebody who could practice for long hours, but I did enjoy picking up my guitar and playing a little bit, at least a couple times a week. And over the years, it adds up. You get better and better and better. So what I noticed is when I think about starting something new, and I think, okay, well, I'm just gonna let's say I want to get better at writing, so I'm gonna write just a couple sentences a day. What I'm doing is I'm imagining the impact of that over time, and I think that's the piece that people without this belief are missing. Is I'm sort of mentally projecting and think, well, if I write just a small paragraph every day, in a couple months, I'll have many paragraphs, and I'll be refining and getting better and better. And ultimately, I'll be able to do a lot at pretty high quality in a short period of time. So for me, that's very tempting. Like I want to get to that place where I can do a ton, really good quality with very little work. So so I'm willing to just put in that 10 minutes a day and just see where it leads me. And I think if for people who don't yet have this belief yet, and I'm not criticizing anybody, like sometimes it's hard to find these things in our experience. What I would encourage you to do is find some examples of things that you have learned to do really well over the years, and just reflect on your experience of learning that over time and how it built. Like most people can drive and hopefully can drive safely and reasonably well. And it probably came from something like driving to work every day. Or maybe you cook well, and it's just putting in little experiments again and again and again and again, and over time it really has this huge effect. So and another thing that gets in the way of people taking on something new is that they look at it and they project out the ton of work that it's going to take to get there. And I think what I'm doing is I'm just focusing on, it's the thing about climbing a mountain, just focus on the next step. I'm just focusing on where I am, and I'm thinking pretty much with anything I do, I just think 10 minutes a day. That's all I need. If I can do 10 minutes a day, over time, it's going to really get bigger and bigger. And the other trick is I know that if I do 10 minutes a day, eventually I'll be able to do 20 minutes some days, and some days I'll be able to just work all day on something. It's as we speak, it's tax season, and taxes used to just be this incredibly large, horrible process for me, but I've done it so many times now that even though it's still a big project, I know how to sit down and just bang out a bit every day, and a couple days or a week, it's done. It's out of the way. So maybe you can find an example. Like I said, it could be cooking, it could be driving. We're all pretty good at walking, most likely. Maybe a physical skill. Maybe you play sport, or if you have a musical instrument, that can be an example. And just mentally imagine, okay, what is that 10 minutes a day impact with that? And I also know, that for me, there's a trick in it, because I know if I can show up for 5 minutes a day, on many days I'll stay a little bit longer, and it's like I'll just get engaged in it and I'll stay longer. But I never raise my minimum. The minimum is there, and I just do that every day. I show up, I get it done, and then it's done. I'm on to something else. So if you want to try out this belief, if it isn't one that you have, I would recommend look for not just one reference example, but look for a couple. Look for a couple things that you've learned over time, and that have had an impact. Where you've gotten good, where just gradually it came together. Because I don't really know anybody who got good at something quickly. There's this quote, I can't remember who it was. It may be George Bernard Shaw, but this quote was, "It took me 25 years to become an overnight success." And when I heard that, I was like, that makes all the sense in the world. It's like you crank away at something, and then suddenly it's like you're an overnight success. And it's funny, the person that I heard that quote from was somebody who was a very successful playwright. And he said that was his experience. His experience was writing plays, a couple times a year after year after year. And it came to the point where he knew that if he wrote a play, he knew he was going to be able to refine it to the point where it was going to be a good play. And so he really had that experience of taking 25 years to become an overnight success. So yeah, I would encourage you to play around with that and see what sort of impact it can have over time. And give yourself a little challenge, like like I said, if you want to start writing or something like that, maybe you set a target of writing for 5 minutes a day, or even just sitting with your journal, even just with an open page, for 30 days. And I think you'll be blown away with how much you get done in 30 days.